Berman at the White House. Want to bring in former New York Lieutenant Governor Betsy McCaughey right now. Betsy, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Give us a preview of what we should expect from President Trump today in his meetings.
Well, he's been very successful so far in conversing with and tweeting with the automakers. Look at the deal he got from Ford even before he took office, and also Toyota's commitment to invest in the United States, $10 billion extra. So I expect that this is going to be a very successful meeting. I'm really applauding the fact that so far he has been able to get these automakers to focus on his commitment. If you're going to sell it here, make it here.
Yeah, you know, Gary, one thing that obviously the markets have been talking about, and it's been a central point, is the rollback of regulations and the lower taxes. I was just really taken aback yesterday when the president said, I'm going to cut regulations by 75%. That's got to be a real mover for earnings.
Yes, but the market since mid-December, which already began to anticipate and price in many of these things, in fact, most of them, has been more concerned, in my opinion, by some of the things that have not gone right. For example, and you know, it's public knowledge, I am a supporter of the RNC. I supported the Trump victory. It's all in the public records. I was embarrassed watching Sean Spicer on Saturday. I mean, Betsy, let's be honest. Were you embarrassed watching that press conference on Saturday? That's the kind of stuff this administration has to stay away from. They need to focus on the economic recovery, not the nonsense like we saw on Saturday.
Look, it's clear that economics is #1, and I am so thrilled that President Trump kept his promise by backing out of the trade agreement immediately. Yeah. That was a major promise for him. And let's face it, this global trade has lifted people out of poverty all over the world as they've moved from fields to assembly lines in third world countries. But it's created a new poverty right here in America when factory workers lose their jobs and end up flipping burgers at McDonald's. And Trump said from his first day in the campaign, we're going to put America first. And combining that new trade attitude with lower corporate taxes.
Are you confident that the focus will continue to be on the business, economic side of the agenda?
Yes.
As opposed
you
to
didn't like talking about crowd size.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah,
I got you.
But today we're talking about trade.
There is no question that Trump's entire focus is on building jobs, building investment in the United States.
Which is why yesterday he signed an executive order to remove the U.S. from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Yep. Take a look at what was said yesterday.
We've been talking about this for a long time. Thank you. Okay. Great thing for the American worker, what we just did.
And earlier this morning, we had on White House National Trade Council Director Designee Peter Navarro. I asked him specifically about that decision.
As part of that order, President Trump pledged to negotiate with our allies in Asia, around the world, on free but fair trade deals, and we're going to get on with discussions about that as quickly as that pen went across signing TPP.
That's how he wants to do trade. Fair trade bilaterally with countries. You have a problem with this because you don't think that this is easy.
Well, it's not.
This is easier said than done.
It's not I have a problem. It's interesting that the Speaker of the House was supportive of TPP. It's interesting that the GOP party gave President Obama TPA, Trade Promotion Authority, to try to... That's accurate.
I'm not saying it's not accurate. It's just that the Republican Party forgot its mission. It left the workers behind.
Robert, if they get a deal with Japan, let's say in the next 30 days, will you come back on air and say, you know what, maybe going one-on-one is not the worst idea?
They're also going to do a deal with UK. We know that this week. Yeah. Canada as well.
I like TPP because of how it boxed out China, and I think it actually reduced about 20,000 tariffs for the U.S., and it brought us actually new agreements with Vietnam and Philippines. If President Trump does bilateral agreements, I'm all for that. So this is not an either or. We are right now. TPP's off the table.
He's going to do bilateral
so
deals.
Let's see if he does them. My only point is it's not so easy to do bilateral trades, and at the same time, China will also be doing bilateral trades, and this was a way for us to box them out. We already had them boxed out, and as Fred Smith said, the first thing that you know, the president of China did was go to Davos and then start getting in bed with Germany and Europe. And it's just very interesting that we want to make sure that we don't put up these barriers in our country.
Let me ask you this, and Dagan, you probably have an opinion on this. So if they're going to get in bed with Germany and France and all these other countries while they're in Davos, I mean, are they going to change their policies, right? If American companies want to own something in China, it's not happening. You will own 49% of a joint venture. You will never get a majority to actually sell all of your products in a fair way to the 1.3 billion person population there.
There are multiple barriers to imports that China has in place, including subsidizing overproduction in that nation, in addition to what you just mentioned. But to Robert's point, that ultimately TPP could have given us leverage over China because we would have had a more open trade with these other Eastern Asian nations. And that's something that the Wall Street Journal editorial page points out today. But if Trump can quickly negotiate some of these deals, but now, see, China has an alternative to TPP that it already started pushing last year. It's called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So speed is of the essence at this point.
I'm not worried. We have a masterful negotiator in the White House this time around.
All right, we will leave it there. Betsy, good to see you. Thanks for weighing in.